Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Quantum Connection podcast. Today, we have with us and kind of a celebrity, I would say, in the quantum health field, who is Kelly Bento. She has decades of experience as a dental hygienist. She has spent many years researching and studying quantum biology and is certified by the Quantum Biology Collective. She's the owner and founder of a red light therapy company called Soleilwell. Welcome so much to the show, Kelly. We're so glad to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I don't know if I would use the word celebrity. That's, but that's lovely. Thank you.
I think because you have made a huge impact in the quantum world already with your company and the red light panels. So I was just saying that because of that. So
Yeah.
kind of a big deal. Kind of a big deal, right, Vanessa?
I absolutely think it's a big deal. And I hear a lot of your name comes up so much. And I was like, oh man, we have to get Kelly on the show. And I hear so many amazing things about your red light panels and your torch, which we're going to talk about. And yeah, it's incredible. So amazing. We're really, really happy to have you on the show. And thank you so much for joining us. So Kelly, tell us like what got you into the quantum realm in the first place, right? How did you land here?
Well, like most of us, when you become a mother, the health of your family and the health of your children becomes your number one priority. And, I've joked with many that it starts with plastic. And then it brings you into the world of light. So that's where it started with plastic, and a massive purge of getting all things plastic out of the house when my kids were babies. And now we are, and have been for over a decade now, a very quantified family. And I fortunately have been able to reap the benefits of being able to raise my family, to find this knowledge, to implement all of these principles and this knowledge into my family's life and our home, and to be able to raise healthy, mentally and physically healthy, happy, emotionally happy kids, has just been the greatest reward imaginable.
Wow. How old were your kids when you entered the quantum health, life?
They were really small. So my oldest is 22. He graduates college next week with a bioengineering degree,
Nice.
which I fully credit Dr. Jack Cruz for that, because my kids grew up with Jack's voice booming in the background. Every podcast, every bit of information that Jack ever put out there, I listened to, and my kids, by osmosis, I think, absorb that information. So, my kids have grown up with that sort of mitochondrial language and understanding. So, thank you to Jack for my son and his pursuit of bioengineering. But yeah, my kids have worn blue blocking glasses in almost all of their life. Logan is 22. Caden, my youngest, is almost 19. And they started out with like the DeWalt safety glasses, and they were always very good about wearing them. And then it's so funny because I have pictures from Christmas morning where my kids are opening up new blue blocking glasses. Which I'm sure they really, were not super psyched about getting, but that's what they got. That's what Santa brought them when they were little. So, we upgraded from the DeWalt, and then we went to, things like like Swannies, because, 12 years ago, that's, one of the only brands that you could get. And now we've certainly progressed, and I think we have every kind of blue light blocking glass around this house ever. So
I love it. It's so funny. You made me laugh because the Easter Bunny just bought them some new blue blockers. And my little one, because they're from the Easter Bunny, because he's young, he's like, he's not giving me as much of a hard time because the Easter Bunny bought them. So it's just like,
Smart.
it's so cute, so it made me laugh a little bit. I mean, I wish I would have implemented it when they were younger, of course, but like when you learn it, right? And that's amazing that they got to grow up that way. And that's pretty incredible. And I love that you said about the plastics, because I feel like I started in the same spot. I was like, yeah, we're gonna get rid of all the plastics, like that's gonna solve everything. And then you're like
Yeah.
learning and researching and growing, and you're like, oh, okay, there's so many more things about health, that we can do. So
Right.
really,
Yeah.
really
Plastic is the
awesome.
gateway.
Yeah, it's so funny. I don't know why we all start there. It's like
Well, I mean, it's so ubiquitous, and it's definitely an issue, right? So
oh yeah,
good
100%.
place to start. So
Yeah.
Kelly, tell us about how your thoughts about how quantum health, like the relationship between quantum health and oral health, broad overview of that.
So having been in dentistry for 30 years and having been in conventional as well as biological dentistry, both have limitations. I don't think either one is really getting it completely right. And they're missing the light component very, and that's a huge component when it comes to general health and also oral health. The one good thing is dentistry as a whole there's always been a very strong focus on nutrition. I feel like we've always focused and assigned more of a value to nutrition than medicine even did. But we need to really move dentistry, especially biological dentistry, more into this quantum world. And there are some practitioners that are starting to do that. But I think once dentistry really understands the light component, I feel like that's when we'll be getting things right. And what I have found over and over again with dentistry, we are failing our patients because we are not addressing root cause. I'm sorry, I don't care who you are, for someone to say or believe that a root canal has caused you breast cancer, I think that is the most irresponsible and sort of reductionist kind of statement to make. Breast cancer is caused by low redox. That is the underlying issue. Let's deal with redox, and then everything else will build from there. So, I think to sort of make statements like that can tend to give sort of a false, it's a false narrative, basically. And do I see correlations between root canals and breast cancer? Yes, I do. Clinically, I do see that correlation. But again, it wasn't the root canal that caused the breast cancer. It was the low redox that caused the root canal that caused, so it's.
Yeah, it's like what caused what, how do we trace it back to when the body started to lose its ability to stay healthy? Yes.
Exactly. And, also, the light under which dentistry is practiced is an issue. And I control the light environment in my operatory. And I can tell you all day long, my patients recognize it. They feel it. They feel different when they are in my operatory, and they respond better to the treatments that I provide them because of the light environment, because I'm not blasting them with blue light. It's, my windows are typically open. My screen is orange red. I have a little shield over my headlamp, my dental loops, that, basically I'm shining more of like an amber color light into their oral cavity, and not this, insane headlight of, super white blue light.
And you can still see as well. You can still see as perfectly fine. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I see everything. I see perfectly fine with doing that. And, your
eyes, I don't want to interrupt you, but your eyes adapt. Like people will say to me like, oh, you can see like when it's like an amber light or a red light. I'm like, yes, I can see. Like the family still sometimes has a hard time like walking around when it's that deep, like dark with the red. And I'm like really so fine with it because I'm like I block the artificial light mostly like literally 100% of the time. And your eyes do adapt, and they really work just fine.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I keep joking that I would love to have, a dental operatory with like a retractable roof or even a skylight.
Awesome. Yeah.
You know, that would be the perfect environment to practice dentistry.
I have a question about that. Now, did you get pushback? Because do you work in an office with other dental hygienists and stuff? Did you get pushback on all of this? Because obviously this is huge and you're changing the environment. And how did that all go? Like,
I I did not get pushback because those around me understand well enough that had there been pushback, I would not be there.
okay, perfect.
You know, I feel strongly enough about things and make that known enough that I will not compromise my health in an environment that I don't have control over. So, you know, where things are controllable, you know, it is easy enough for me to not turn on the overhead LEDs and to place lamps in the operatory with, you know, really fantastic incandescent UVA, UVB bulbs, and to open the window and to change my screen, things like that. Those are such easy, simple things that I am able to control. And so if I can control it, I will control it for me and for the patients.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's not only supporting your health, it's supporting their health. And that's huge because a lot of people will say, oh, I can't change the, because light really is a simple thing to control, right? And people will say, like clients be like, oh, I work in an office or I work here and I can't really change this and that. And I'm like, well, maybe you can bring a lamp in with a red light bulb or an incandescent bulb. Like, is that really a possibility? So
Yeah.
often
The
it
simplest,
is.
yeah. The simplest thing I tell people basically, if anyone questions it, if anyone within your workspace potentially, brings an argument to that conversation, you simply say that those lights cause you migraine headaches.
Right.
And that your, medical practitioner has advised you for your, whatever condition to change out the light bulbs to create a healthier environment for you.
Yeah, that's a simple one, right? 'Cause people can understand that. They're like, okay, I don't have to really go into the depth, right? It's really pretty simple. So
yeah, and then it's not just, oh, I'm a weirdo. I want a different, or I'm difficult. I want a different light bulb. It's no, this is, we're talking about what is going to keep me healthy, and keep me as a productive, efficient worker.
Well, and when we tie it to a medical necessity, then all of a sudden the paradigm shifts and it's like, oh, okay, right. That's accepted language and people get it, the migraines or whatever your malady is. And so now all of a sudden It's like, how can we help you so that you can stay productive and whatnot? So that's brilliant. Right. Thank you for that.
I also advise my patients when, we're having this conversation about their kids being in classrooms and they're saying, well, I have no control. And I tell them, yes, you do. You walk into that classroom and you take a slow-mo video of that light. And then you show that to the teacher, to the administration, and you show them the flicker that is coming off the light. And then you say to them, you show them the clinical evidence and the published research on, the damaging effects of flicker, and especially on children, or even the video, the John Ott video of the classroom in Florida. And you basically make the case that the environment that your children are in is not conducive to their health and is actually detrimental, and that they need to provide a safe, healthy environment.
Every teacher knows, because I was a public school teacher in my prior life. Every public school teacher knows that when you turn the fluorescent lights off, that the kids focus better. Every teacher knows that when you sit down outside and you read a story outside to them, that they listen better and their attention span is better. You ask any teacher, they will obviously say that, because it's just, you see it, you see the night and day difference. And every teacher knows that if you get them outside before a test and run around and play and do that they're going to sit down and better for their whatever they have to do to sit still. Like, they all know that. It's just common sense knowledge, but we don't connect the dots and think about it that way,
Okay. That it's the light.
Yes.
The light of being connected with nature helps their system function better. I mean, that's just the way we're built. So based on that segue, Kelly, how, from a quantum perspective, what are the best strategies that you recommend to your patients to support their oral health? Light is obviously the biggest, yes. And what else?
Yeah, I mean, so, utilizing red light within the oral cavity, if, as a general modality for health is great, but also, you know, for any issues that may be arising. But ultimately, when I see my patients, as I'm reviewing their health history, you know, one of the first questions that I ask them is, how much time are you spending outside? And, you know, my long-term patients that I've seen for 20 years, they know that, they understand this and me and what I'm about. But some newer patients will sort of look at me perplexed, like, why do you ask that? And I say, well, because that's a very important health metric. That is information that I need to be able to assess you, you know, completely for your health. And, you know, so the conversation is sort of, it's always there. If I see a patient that is a night shift worker, then I'm absolutely opening the conversation about, are you wearing blue light blocking glasses? And if you're not, well, this is what you need to do, and this is what you need to get, and things like that. So you know, but I have never had a tool in dentistry that was so safe and effective as red light. Across the board. You know, I had a patient that is one of the oldest living diabetics in the country, childhood diabetic. She's now in her 60s, very compromised woman. She has, you know, given me permission to speak about her. Very compromised, immunocompromised, MS, everything you could imagine. And I've been seeing her for a very long time, managing her conditions, her oral health. And she was, you know, really having a flare, and her gum tissue was very much like it's going to sound horrible, but very much like ground beef. It was insanely inflamed and fibrotic, and just bled profusely over and over and over. Dentistry tried everything. They tried every rinse, every pharmaceutical you could imagine. Dentistry had nothing to offer her. Nothing what helped. And I said to her, you need to use red light in your mouth. And she was actually one of the patients that sort of prompted me with in developing the torch and using the torch. So she came over, she's local. She came over, and I showed her the torch, and I showed her how I wanted her to use it. And, you know, then she was also like, well, I also have like this arthritis in my thumb. Can I use it for that? I was like, yes, use it everywhere that you feel like you need to use it. And within a week, now this was after 2 years of her gum tissue being this way, and it was 8 different pharmaceutical prescriptions that failed. After it was less than 1 week, she sent me a text, and she said, for the first time in nearly 2 years, I can brush my teeth without spitting out a sink full of blood.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it was that quick. It was that effective. I saw her recently. She's been using the torch for almost a year now. I saw her recently, and she said, you know, all of the doctors that she sees, the periodontist, everyone that she sees, you know, she's like, they don't know anything about red light, but they say, whatever you're doing, just keep doing it because it's working. I mean,
and there's no negative side effect to that. I think you said 8 pharmaceuticals, right? To try and figure this out, right? That there's so much danger in that, right? And there's so much other health consequences. Red light therapy is just, there's no negative to that. You're not going to harm yourself. You're just going to build your mitochondria. You're going to build your easy water. You're going to make your body stronger. There's literally no negative.
No contraindication whatsoever.
Zero.
Whereas with the pharmaceuticals, you know, they kept putting her on these, you know, steroid medications, which you cannot do with a diabetic patient.
No.
So, you know, it was just this constant, you know, battle within her system between the disease and the pharmaceuticals. And, you know, red light stepped in and did exactly what it does, is it healed, you know, her tissue without any contraindication. And she is very, very happy.
Oh, that's an awesome story.
Kelly, do you recommend as part of like I'm curious to know like what your oral health routine is, and do you do red light therapy just as part of that in a daily basis with the torch?
So because you know, I focus on lifestyle, I'm grounded all the time. I'm outside in sunlight. I mean, I wake up in the morning and I'm outside barefoot with my shirt off in the dead of winter. And I have at least 1, if not 2 hands on trees. and I'm deep in the woods watching, getting a direct line of the sunlight.
Sounds
So
pretty sublime if you ask me. Sign me up.
it's pretty amazing, in the summer, that's, me, like, I'm out the door in my Kaniki bathing suit in the woods, watching the sunrise at 5 a.m. So, because I do those things, and because I'm very mindful of my night light environment as well, I don't need dentistry. I don't need it. I haven't needed dentistry in, well over a decade.
What do you mean? Like even a teeth cleaning?
I don't.
It's so funny you say that. I'm going to out myself right here because I was started feeling like really self-conscious because I went to, I guess he's more just of a holistic dentist. I don't know, 10 years ago. It's a while. And he said, you don't need a teeth cleaning. And I thought, I've never had that happen. They always want to take the x-rays and then clean your teeth and all the things, right? And I'm like, okay, that's good with me. And I haven't been back because I look at my teeth closely and I think, well, there's a few little things that could probably use help, but I'll probably try to do it myself with one of those pokey things. But I don't think I need to go.
Yeah.
And I wasn't doing quantum that whole time, mind you. Like I've been doing it for the last, gosh, I don't know, maybe it's 8 years or so now. But I'm thinking that could only have been helping my teeth this whole time because I do have gum recession. But it doesn't bother me unless I eat things that are really have certain like plant foods that make my gums super sensitive. Otherwise, I'm fine. So
yes.
I think
typically recession is just due to, mechanical abrasion of brushing too hard. So
I'm guilty of that. Yeah.
The things that we're taught to do to keep our mouth healthy, often what I see play out daily, one of the biggest things is people are over brushing. They are over cleaning their mouth. They are mechanically abrading the tooth surface. They're actually brushing away enamel, which is such an important, substance in the body. It is 50% harder than bone, and you're actually brushing it away. So, and you're causing the gums to recede. Those are all issues. They really cannot be fixed. And those are much more involved issues, dental issues, than if you were to get a cavity. So, because basically you've actually brushed away and broken down the supporting structure, the really important, it would be like, taking a sledgehammer to the foundation of your house. You could have the most beautiful house. If you beat down the foundation, what is the point? So what I see in dentistry over and over and over again, we're ruining the system. Like let the mouth do what it's designed to do, as long as you're living a healthy lifestyle. Right. And you will not need dentistry. I just keep telling people, stay away from dentistry. Honestly, I'm just not seeing anything good happen here. I'm not. People are over brushing, they're over sanitizing their mouth.
Yes, let's talk about mouthwash and fluoride and all those things. Can we bring that stuff in? Because that's what I want to talk with about it. I mean, obviously, I agree, but can you explain why using mouthwash and using fluoride treatments and all these things, why we should avoid these things?
The oral microbiome is supposed to be rich in bacteria. And yet we use these medicaments that go in and just kill everything. They just kill everything. So, there is no benefit to using those. And the mouth rinses, the toothpaste, fluoride is horrific. There is a published PubMed study, and I've brought this into every office that I've ever walked into, and I will tell you it gets completely disregarded everywhere I go and everyone that I've shown it to. The published study showing fluoride in children lowers their IQ, lowers it. And that, honestly, that is probably the least of the damage that it's doing.
Yes.
So, I mean, as we talk about redox, which is your body's ability to maintain a net negative charge, fluoride destroys that. It absolutely destroys your redox. It's a very bad idea. My kids have never used fluoride. Their teeth are fine. You know, and I have more and more patients coming in, and they'll sort of say to me like, what should I be using? And I tell them, in my house, I don't use fluoride. You know,
Me
I
neither.
do like the toothpaste that are very natural and contain hydroxyapatite. I think those are fine. But you know, honestly, I just, the further and further I get, the further and further I move away from using anything. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I come downstairs, I take a swig of the Quinton minerals, I swish that around my mouth, I sort of pull it between my teeth, I swish it around, I, you know, let it sit, and then I swallow. And basically what I'm doing is I'm sort of remineralizing and rehydrating tissue that, you know, may have gotten a bit dehydrated through the night. And then I'm swallowing, because what I want to do is actually take those microbes that have been there during the night and populate my gut microbiome. That's the way the system's supposed to work, is the oral microbiome is directly tied to the gut microbiome. They're not separate from one another. They're you know, a full system here that is supposed to work together. So if you're not, you know, properly populating your gut microbiome from the oral microbiome,
So
that
basically,
Maybe
when
if
you're
I stop
drinking,
brushing my teeth, my gut will get better.
yeah, well, when you're drinking things like mouthwash and stuff, you are absolutely like affecting the gut microbiome for sure. You are definitely ruining that. So yeah.
oh yeah, and I mean, years ago, I believe it was Crest that was putting triclosan in toothpaste, and they were saying this is the greatest thing ever because we're going to eliminate gingivitis forever and ever. This is fantastic. And now it's like, oh, wait a second, triclosan causes cancer. Oops, sorry, shouldn't have done that.
Wow. So
Just
just on a
go.
more, like, I just want to know, Kelly, like, so maybe it's just me being anal, but like, I don't like the fuzz feeling on my teeth when you eat certain foods. And if I only ate meat, it'd probably be fine. But what I used to, when I couldn't brush because the pain of the gum rescission, I would just use a handkerchief and just kind of, you know, clean them off that way. What do you recommend if you're not brushing? I mean, you just don't brush, or how do people get their teeth clean? Or do we not even need to care about that? I don't know.
No, I mean, I think that sort of the you know, using something mechanical to clean your teeth is it's a fine idea. I'm not anti-brushing whatsoever. I
Okay.
think, you know, cleaning your teeth is certainly a good idea. You need to be very mindful of how you want to brush effectively, but not aggressively. I mean, we've evolved for a very long time. How many years have we had toothbrushes? How did we get here if we didn't have a toothbrush, right? So, you know, using something like a toothbrush I'm totally fine with that. Just be very mindful to brush effectively, but never aggressively. You want to use the softest brush you can possibly find. I think the bristle electric brush, the red light toothbrush, I think that's a really good, that's my favorite electric brush. I bounce back and forth between a manual brush and an electric brush. I like theirs.
It's called the bristle.
Yeah, BRISC bristle. I think it's Bristle UK is
So
where you get.
that's the toothbrush with the red light already built in, correct? Because I've heard about this, but I haven't. That's also on my list of things to buy. So I wanted to ask your thoughts about that. So I'm glad you brought it up. I use a bamboo toothbrush, so it's very soft. I love that, and I actually a lot of times I just brush with water. I just water and that bamboo toothbrush. I love the softness of it. It works really great, and I would love to get that toothbrush. I'm glad you brought it up. And I also wanted to ask you about electric toothbrushes and your thoughts on that too.
Well, across the board, they're an EMF nightmare.
Yeah,
they're horrific. That's why I like the bristle, is because it's been thoroughly tested. It is safe from an EMF perspective, and the bristles of the brush are very, very soft. So, you know, I can get behind using a brush like that. You know, I have one here. The funny thing is about, you know, brushing and toothpaste. So the research shows that it is brushing with toothpaste that causes the most abrasion of the tissue and of the enamel. And yet we don't say to patients, don't brush with toothpaste, just brush with water. It's safer. You know, if someone comes in and they have very recessed areas and I can clearly see that they've been brushing too hard, you know, I'm telling them brush with just water, but like that should be the conversation, because we know this. We know it's the combination of the two, of the toothpaste and the aggressive brushing. So it's not just one or the other, it's the combination of the two. So, okay, so let's have the conversation of, okay, let's remove the abrasive toothpaste and then let's get you to brush less aggressively to preserve the, you know, the gum tissue and the tooth enamel.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I have a question too about TMJ. What are your thoughts on there when you see that? What are your thoughts with that?
I mean, red light has been the greatest thing for TMJ ever. You know, I have my patients, I mean, patients that have spent thousands of dollars and have gone into Tufts and they've seen these world-renowned TMJ specialists, and they're still coming in saying, this is awful, you know, it's not as great as I would like, you know, I'm still in pain. And I get them using the torch directly on the TMJ, and very quickly they're like, wow, that helped. Like, wow, it was that simple, you know?
I used to have TMJ. It's why I asked this question, and my mom suffers with it. So she was like, can you ask her about TMJ? I'm like, I will do, but I don't have it anymore. And I think it's just, I built my redox. Like I've just, you know, like honestly, I've just gotten stronger. So it just went away.
Less inflammation.
Exactly. There
Yeah.
are two interesting conversations actually about like TMJ and teeth grinding. You know, there's the airway conversation that, you know, your body needs to create a better airway. So it's going to drive your lower jaw, you know, forward to try to open the airway. Like you think like in CPR, the first thing they tell you is to pull the jaw forward because that's going to open the airway. So your body, you know, subconsciously when you're sleeping, if you're not breathing correctly, will drive you to push your jaw forward, and you know that can, you know, mash your teeth together and cause TMJ issues. But there's also in a really amazing conversation that I had with Kelly Bento and Dr. Corey Gasvini was, you know, that could also be the body creating energy, like creating electricity, because you know teeth are piezoelectric, and so it could be a means of your body needing to create energy.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah. So it's really it fascinates me, you know, and I'm always mindful of both of those issues when I see someone that is really like grinding and mashing their teeth together. You know, like what exactly is happening there?
Yeah.
So would you be willing to show everyone because we're going to post this on YouTube as well, and whatnot, the torch you have right there?
Yeah.
How
So
that
this
works?
is, yeah, so this is the torch for TMJ. You know, you use it externally. So you would go directly, you know, right on the temporomandibular joint right there. You know, both sides. And the really cool thing is that 1/3 of the body's entire lymphatic lymph nodes are within the head and neck. Like this is really important area that you want proper drainage, you want proper blood flow from the lymphatic system of the brain, you know, down through. So using red light on the head and neck, you know, hitting all of those lymph nodes from a lymphatic standpoint, from a health standpoint, huge. I mean, I have my patients do that using it on those different points. But then, you know, when you add the attachment head, you know, this can, you go intraorally with this. And I have patients, you know, if there are periodontal issues and gingival issues, I have them just walk it along the gum tissue, you know, on the outside of the gums, and then again on the inside, for certain things, because I understand nerve, where the cranial nerves innervate and where certain important points are. I know exactly, and I guide my patients exactly where to use that light in order to hit those targets within the mouth to hit those nerves at certain points in order to, deliver the light very specifically and very guided. So, it's kind of fun to have like a really solid understanding of head and neck anatomy, and then to be able to take a tool like the light and use it and just watch it, watch magic happen.
You must have a long waiting list for your patients who want to see you, I bet.
It gets a little crazy.
Yeah.
And the body is like so interconnected. And it's, I've heard so much about the jaw and the oral health and how that's connected to the gut microbiome and how it's connected to the pelvic floor. And it's just like the body is just so one. So it's like you work on something maybe in the oral mouth, or I'm sure you've probably seen this, or in this area, and then you see it have a systemic effect in other areas of the body, right? So it's like pretty incredible.
When we talk about like, biophoton emission, the tongue emits more light than any other organ in the body.
Really?
And the tongue is actually the strongest muscle within the entire body. So
Wow.
it's just, it's so interesting to use light in the mouth and to just, watch it just work so beautifully.
I feel like we should be going outside and opening our mouths.
Yes.
Like,
Well, yeah.
when we're in the sunlight, like we always have our mouths closed. Like maybe we should be opening
Yeah.
our mouths when we're outside in sunlight more.
Well, when Dr. Jack Cruz talks about melanin being, a semiconductor, teeth are N-type semiconductors. They're semiconductors. They're piezoelectric. They're not just teeth.
Yeah. Yeah. They're connected to the
They're
meridian points. I mean, there's so many
yes.
things. Yeah. It's all
Yes.
connected. Yeah. It's the
Yeah.
energy is going to flow all throughout. So,
Right.
yeah.
And the mouth is the external representation of the gut. So, if you have periodontal issues, then you typically have, I always say leaky gums, leaky gut, leaky brain. All barriers are leaking, and that's a problem. Again, we're, right back to redox. That's a redox problem. That's a systemic, low voltage, low net negative charge redox issue.
Let's talk about like the issue with braces and the problem with them and why they can be harmful to health. People putting those in their mouths and the metal in their mouths. And obviously there's a connection with the EMFs and all of that. So if you could just chat about that a little bit, that'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're basically putting a radiation antenna in your kid's head with metal braces. Very bad idea.
And then they're going to put the earbuds in their ear, and it's going to be right here, and it's going to be right to the brain.
Yes. Yeah. Especially today. You know what? Maybe 20, 30 years ago, you probably could have gotten away with it, right? Without it. Obviously, most of us grew up with braces, and, we're still here, right? But now with technology, with AirPods, with, Apple Watches, with phones to their heads and in their faces, and just this massive bombardment of it's radiate, like let's stop calling it EMFs. Let's start saying this, it's radiation, right? I mean, people sometimes will question a dental x-ray, yet they're sitting there with AirPods and two phones on them. And I'm like, we have a much bigger conversation here than, one single dental x-ray. So it's a big deal. And there are better ways of managing, the placement of teeth as opposed to putting, filling their mouth full of metal.
Is there anything else that you guys recommend, or is there any other strategies that someone could use if you really do have a lot of misalignment?
Directly to, directing radiation toward the brain.
Mm-hmm.
So, pick your poison. I would much rather use a plastic aligner if it's possible on a kid. Now, also, if you have a child that has, you know, very, very misaligned teeth that needs really, you know, dramatic ortho intervention, and the only answer is, you know, full mouth braces, you could also maybe ask the doctor if they could do the brackets in like a ceramic bracket, or even a composite type bracket, as opposed to a metal bracket. Sometimes they may have to do the metal wires. You know, it's like, let's try to reduce the risk as much as possible. If it's possible to do plastic aligners and get, you know, the teeth in position the way that you need them, great. You know, if a kid needs a palatal expander and that's the intervention that's needed, you know, sometimes you have to do things for a year that can be justified, you know. So in those circumstances, I would say, you know, don't over stress about it. Just always focus on making sure that your kid is getting outside barefoot as much as possible, and just sort of get through what you need to get through and get better on the other side of it.
Yeah, 100%. That's like, we make health so complicated, and really it is so simple. Like, you know, so we just go outside and, you know, be in the sunlight and ground and do all the things. It can be so much easier. So
Yeah.
yeah. So what do we do if like somebody does run into, say, a root canal or a cavity or what? Like, what is the best practices there, like in your opinion, of what to do when you do run into, like, somebody, you know, runs into these issues? What is their best options?
I mean, I am finding, I have had patients reach out to me and, you know, have done consults with me because they've been, you know, they have a tooth that's failing and they've been told that they need a root canal. And, you know, then they're sending me the x-ray, and you know, one person in particular, she sent me the x-ray, and they wanted to do a root canal, and she knew that she didn't want a root canal. So she was refusing the root canal, and the extraction of this tooth was scheduled for the next day. And, you know, I discussed with her, I looked over the x-ray, I even spoke with a friend of mine, and, you know, I contacted her, I said, cancel that extraction, cancel that, hold on, wait a second. And she had the torch, and so I guided her exactly how I wanted her to use the torch. I said, let's give your body a minute to do what it's designed to do, which is to heal itself, given the proper information. So, you know, she took some time, she canceled the extraction. The tooth is still in her mouth. It's fine.
Wow.
You know, we were able to reverse it. So, you know, we need
That's
to
amazing.
stop jumping into, oh, let's do a root canal, because you know what? A root canal is $2,000. And then after you have a root canal, you need a crown, and the crown is $2,000. Or they're going to say to you, well, wait a second, the most predictable form of dentistry is if we extract the tooth and then we place an implant there, and then you never have to worry about that tooth again. And so then you're talking about, okay, $4,000 of restorative dentistry that they suggested. Now you're talking about $6,000 or $7,000 to place a metal titanium post in your skull, again, creating an antenna, drawing radiation. Very bad idea. So, you know, and typically what I see over and over again is, the more you allow a dentist into your mouth to work on your teeth, the bigger the problem it creates.
Yes.
It is a revenue-driven industry.
Isn't all of them though? Like, we have to realize that, like, it's no different
Exactly.
than everything else, but it's just like,
Yep.
yes, I completely agree with that statement. I love
Yep.
it. And yeah, so basically just, so if we get those things, we just get the torch and we move on, right?
Yeah.
So
I
you
mean,
had a number, Kelly, you've had more experience with reversing, I don't know if I want to say reverse, but avoiding root canals by helping the tooth heal itself. That's pretty common
Yes.
practice in your, wow, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
Because they make it sound like it's unavoidable and you have to do it, and it's just all this urgency, and
Don't
there's
they
no other
always?
option. I know, and that's just that's unethical.
It
Yeah.
is.
There's
But
such a fear.
they don't know
such a fear
another way
factor.
too, Heather. Yeah.
Right. So they only know what they know. And
Yeah.
so they're like, well, okay, well, the end result, the root, the nerve of the tooth is dying, therefore it needs to come out, or you need a root canal. That's all they have in their toolbox. That's all they've been taught. You know, it's just like medicine. They've only been taught pharmaceuticals. That's it.
Yep.
You know, God forbid, don't go out in the sunlight. You'll die. So,
But isn't it true though, Kelly, that there's a risk of infection later on?
but with having a root canal, every root canal fails. They, you know,
I just want
what's the
people to
point?
hear that. I want people to hear that. There are
Every root
alternatives,
canal fails.
and root canals are not a good idea.
Right. They're not a good idea. If you focus on this lifestyle, you won't need a root canal. Like this is like, talk about preventive medicine, preventive dentistry. This is it, you know,
Yep.
these principles, this way of living, this is what is going to keep you out of the doctor's office, is going to keep you out of the dental chair. And like I said, the more times dentists go into your mouth, the more problems you will have. I see this over and over, and the conversation in dentistry is you want to be proactive and not reactive. You know, and I have 80-year-old patients that, you know, have this minor little thing happening, and, you know, the dentist is like, well, you want to be proactive. Let's do this, you know, $10,000 treatment plan.
Ugh.
And there's so much fear involved. It's like, well, if you don't do
Yes.
this,
Okay.
you're losing your teeth, and
Yeah.
then you can't eat. And when you can't eat, you die. Like,
Yeah.
holy
That's the unethical
The
part. I
fear
don't
is
like
what
that.
drives it, though. The
Right.
fear is what drives that. And that's because I was going to say, like, I wanted to ask your thought about wisdom teeth, because I have all my wisdom teeth. I have 3 in that came in and 1 that hasn't. And of course, you know, when they were coming in, they were a little painful. And of course, I went to the dentist and they said, oh, I should get them removed. And something in my gut told me not to do it. And I never did it. I was like, I don't want to go through that. And I just, you know, I never did it. So I wanted to get your take on that. And by the way, they never bother me ever anymore. They're just here.
Yeah.
They're just, I'm totally fine, but I just would love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, my husband has his wisdom teeth. My kids have their wisdom teeth, and you know, there's always the conversation. Oh, those should come out. Why? Tell me why. Well, just because they should. Why?
Yeah.
Why? They're not infected. They're
Mm-mm.
in full alignment, full occlusion. There's no reason. Well, because that's the standard of care. Well, the standard of care is pretty crummy. I'm not interested in the standard of care. I'm interested in the way, you know, the human body was designed to have those teeth in those sockets, and that's where they'll stay.
Yeah, they serve
So-
a purpose, right?
So I
They
had
have-
all 4 of mine taken out at like 16, or I forget how old I was. So there's probably lifelong consequences from that. I don't know if it's my gut issues or whatever, but who knows how
You know
much
what?
that's
I
affected me.
mean, yeah, I would say, you know, in a low redox state, could that be a contributing factor? Sure. You know, if you're focused on the real needle movers, I don't think a cavitation or a root canal is going to take someone out.
Mm-hmm.
We would have ceased to have existed a very long time ago if we were that fragile.
Yeah.
Sure. So it compromises your quality of life, but it's not going to necessarily kill you. Just create some chronic health issues, perhaps.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And honestly, I think if you have a high redox, those things, they just become non-issues. You know, I have patients that contact me all the time, you know, or someone will send me a message like, oh my God, I have a root canal in my mouth. What should I do? I'm so afraid. Don't be afraid. Improve it. Just live healthy. Live healthy. That is your best defense. Don't go ripping teeth out of your mouth. I don't think that's a great idea. You know, and don't over stress over things that have already been done. Focus on what you can control today. Focus on the positive. Focus on building the redox, and those things that, you know, a root canal in a low redox person, yes, that can become an issue. A root canal in a high redox person, you know, someone who's really worked on this and built this up, I wouldn't be concerned.
It's not as much as less of an issue. Well, that brings me to the question about mercury fillings, because a lot of people, you know, have those lovely mercury fillings and they want to they start learning about holistic health and they're like, okay, let me go to a biological dentist and remove them, right? And I don't know how that always goes necessarily, but what is your recommendation around that? If you have, mercury fillings in your mouth, are they causing damage? What should you do? Should you keep them? Should you remove them? Is it going to open up a can of worms, which is where I think you're going to say? Go ahead and enlighten us.
I have 4 mercury amalgam fillings, small ones, in my mouth. They're still there.
Mm-hmm.
Do I look like I'm dying?
I think no.
I mean, I think I'm okay. And I've had every opportunity, working at a really phenomenal biological dental facility that had the bazillion-dollar smart room technology to safely remove amalgams. And I never opted to get in that chair and have them removed. So, again, blue light excites mercury. No dentist has any idea when they touch silver amalgam filling in a mouth and they hit it with a high-speed drill and they vaporize it, even with all the suction that they talk about and and everything else, all the chelation that they want to give you during and the IV, and you have no idea where that mercury has just gone, what it has just done. You're better off to keep it where it's at and not excite it.
Yes,
Just,
not excited with blue light. Not excited.
Not excited with blue light. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I probably know more people that went to a biological dentist to have amalgams removed, thinking, they basically had crashing health, right? They were just, everything was just falling apart, and they were convinced, oh my gosh, it's my silver fillings that's what's making me sick. Yep. And so they go to these biological dentists and they opt into these $30,000 treatment plans to get all of their silver amalgam removed. And on the other side of that, I mean, I've known more people that have ended up with mercury toxicity from doing that than from not doing that.
Yeah.
So
that's scary because I had 7 taken out. I'm like, oh no, maybe I should look into this more now, because that was a long time ago.
Yeah. Again, like you can't change anything. Like, just move forward, build the redox, stay away from dentists.
Stay away from doctors, stay away from dentists, stay away from it all.
Just stay in the woods. Just stay in the woods. You'll be fine.
I love it. I love it. Let's talk a little bit about nutrition for oral health, because I want to just bring that up, because it's funny because plaque used to be like an issue for me. I'd have a lot of plaque, and I'll never forget one of the side effects of doing a carnivore diet, which I had a lot of negative side effects from that actually as well. My body it was too much for my body personally. But the first thing I noticed when I went on a carnivore diet literally was I literally had no plaque. Like, all my plaque went away. Like, I was like, I have zero. I don't even need to brush my teeth. Like, forget it. Like, I have zero plaque. And of course, I have minimal now, but adding plants back in. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that. And I hear a lot about plaque and non-native EMFs also, that there's a correlation with that as well. Or radiation. Let's go with that word. I do like that word better. But yeah, so I'm just curious here, obviously, what is the optimal diet, of course, or nutrition for oral health, I wanted to say. And then, like, what are your thoughts on what I just mentioned?
The whole, like, eat seasonally, eat locally, the conversation around that was more so for the environment, so that we're not trucking food. But honestly, that is the ultimate human diet. Eat the food. I tell my patients, if you cannot go outside and find that food, you have no business eating it. And if it didn't grow from the ground or come from a mother, don't eat it. It's so simple. I don't care how much you eat. I do care what you eat, and I care more about what time you eat it. So, the timing of the food is more important than, I don't know, proteins, carbohydrates, and all of that. I have a beautiful local organic farm right up the road. I go there whatever they have there is what I will eat. If it's not there, I'm not eating it. It's rather
So
simple.
simple, right? So easy.
It doesn't get simpler
Yeah.
than that. If
Again,
you
we make it more
can't buy
complicated.
it's so overcomplicated. It's
We're like,
ridiculous.
oh, we're trying to macronutrient everything, get the right amount of carbs and fats and proteins. And, yeah, if we just, eat with the sun and then
Yeah.
what's in our environment, like that is like, you're done. You're like, you don't have to think anymore. And it actually takes, it's more freedom, and it takes a lot of that pressure off of you to like, try to like control everything diet centralized. And I always tell clients too, if you get your light right, your diet's going to matter a little bit less. Not that I don't think diet's important, because it absolutely is. And for me and my health issues, I have to definitely go all in on the things. But yeah, I just think that we just focus on the wrong things a lot of times. So
Yeah. The whole calories in, calories out. I mean, I blew the door open on that just myself. I was eating, and I did a period of time where I was tracking everything, because that's
me
what
too.
you did, right? You had to track all of your macros, had to be tracked to the 0% of whatever carbohydrate. And I tracked everything, and I was eating 900 calories a day.
Ooh.
And then I changed that. And then I was eating, I went to eating protein and fat, and I was eating probably 4,000 calories a day. And I weighed 140 pounds at 900 calories a day, and I weighed 99 pounds at 4,000 calories a day. Same
Wow.
workouts.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. But also you down-regulate all your metabolism, you down-regulate your leptin when you do all that with that calorie restriction. That's why calorie restriction is really detrimental to health. And I mean, I've been there, I've done it too. Like I'm guilty.
yeah.
But yeah, it can
Not
be,
about the food. I
Oh.
gained more weight from blue light at night than I ever would have had which I never did, had I consumed an abundance of cheesecake.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
No, great.
blue light will make you fatter and sicker. Blue light at night will make you fatter and sicker than any food on this planet.
Yep.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about your devices, your panels. You have your beautiful panels behind you there, and tell us more about that, and really what makes them kind of a cut above the rest. Let's go with that.
Love red light. It's my favorite. It's my favorite thing to talk about. The thing is, when I was working for a biological medical dental practice, I was being tasked with bringing red light into the practice for the patients from both sides, the medical and the dental. And I started vetting different companies to find out who we were going to be sourcing our panels and products from. And so, I started reaching out to many of the very, very well-known companies. We all know the names of all of the companies. And I was very quickly alarmed. But when one of my questions, knowing what I know, having learned and listened from Jack Kruse for so many years, and understanding the importance of EMF, understanding the importance of flicker, understanding the importance of what you expose your body to in your mitochondria being the ultimate environment sensor. To me, when in my pecking list of what's important in a red light product, first and foremost was safety. How is this being tested? And what are the results of those tests? And I very quickly found out that no one is testing. Everything is being drop shipped. Everything is manufactured in China, which there's an issue. That doesn't feel good. Myself and some of my friends we're working on trying to change that, and I'm very hopeful that we will change that. But for now, everything is manufactured in China. And so my husband, I'm so lucky. I mean, talk about the universe just aligning everything and sort of moving me to do this. I have the luxury my husband is a golf shoe designer, and he has dealt with Chinese manufacturing for 35 years. So he understands that, the intricacies and the disadvantages of that entire system, culture, all of that. And so in conversations with him, he was like, what do you mean? Like, no, that like you need to make sure that they're actually making them. They don't just do what you tell them to do. They do what is convenient and quick and cost effective for them, not for you. So, so that was very sort of shocking to me and very alarming to me. And so, at the prompt of some of my good friends that were like, you should do this. You know more about light than any of these other people. You should do this. And so I started contacting manufacturers, and I started sourcing lights, and I started testing lights, and I started playing around with different things and figuring out. And I was doing this for myself, for my brother who has a brain injury, because I was really focused on making sure that whatever I was sourcing for him was going to be safe and effective for him. And, so it just, I in my family, and then it was my patients, and I was working with my patients, and I sort of very quietly did this and didn't really say anything within this community about what I was doing. Until I did, I just had so many people contacting me that I was like, you know what? Other people want to have access to this. So why don't I do this? If not me, then who? And so I did. And I'm really glad that I did. I'm really proud that I did. I'm really exhausted that I did.
I bet. It's like an extraordinary amount of work.
It is an extraordinary amount of work, because nothing, leaves here and gets to you without me stepping in and testing it and making sure that it is exactly what it's supposed to be.
Right. Your quality control is the exceptional aspect of it, because you did have a batch come through that was not up to snuff, and you had to fix all that. Yes.
I mean, talk about it, and that's the thing, it was a real interesting lesson, because it proved my point that testing is vitally important. And it also proved my point, even to me, that I can't rest with this, because things happen, and I'm not thinking that anything happened maliciously in manufacturing. It's manufacturing, right? Like, things happen. I mean, it was shocking to me. This massive order of torches came in, and of course, when it's like Christmas, I get really excited, and immediately the boxes get opened. If I were to turn this camera around and you saw the rest of my house right now, this is my entire house is taken over. Soleilwell lives here, and we're just,
I love it.
It's like there is red light every square inch of this house. There are boxes, there are shipping labels, there are meters everywhere. So, like to open the box and to start testing them, and it was like, oh, wow, wait a second, that's terrible. And then I opened the next one. Okay, that's terrible. And, and it was just like every single one was terrible. And I thought, oh my God, like I can't ship these. I wouldn't use these. I would not use these for myself. I could never ship this to someone. So it was this massive, massive issue. And the manufacturer just kept saying, they're fine. Don't worry. We made them exactly how you told us to make them. They're fine. And I kept sending them, my testing, saying, these are not fine. This is dangerous. That's not dangerous. There's no evidence that is dangerous. And so
this
sent
was
them out.
levels of radiation, I'm assuming. Was that what it was?
Well, so yeah, so there were some issues like that, and then there were some flicker issues. It was clearly there was a circuit issue happening that should never have been there, especially in a battery powered device. So it was very, very clear to me that okay, something happened and this is a major manufacturing error. It needs to be corrected. They fully dismissed it. No, it's fine. So then they got, you know, really short with me, and because I just kept saying no, 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 no. And they said, have them third party tested. So I sent them all to UMass and I had them tested, and every single one of them failed. And so I then sent them that report, that official report from that department. It's a level 1 research lab that did this, confirming everything that I had found. And again, they still were denying that there were any issues. So that's what I found. Imagine what is actually out there in people's homes, you know? So when you buy something off Amazon, I tell my patients all the time, would you go on Amazon? Would you drop ship a prescription medication to your house? And then would you use it however you thought you should use it, with absolutely no guidance by someone, you know, by a clinician or someone that actually has an understanding? Light is a medication. It is as powerful. Probably, I think in a lot of circumstances, it's more powerful and more effective and far safer than any medication out there. And yet, you know, everything is unregulated. And not that I am pro government regulation of anything, you know, no thanks. No thanks. But with that, it then requires integrity on the part of the person that is distributing that product. And so, you know, that's what drives me. That's what makes me feel good, is because I know what this is, and then I know who's using it, and I know how they're using it. And I'm over and over and over again, and this is reproducible so many times, where, you know, I'm able to see the absolute benefit that this brings to my patients. And I think that they're so effective and they work so well, and people benefit from them so much because they're really good products that have been thoroughly tested to be known to be really good products. Like, you know, this isn't, I'm not guessing whether or not this is good, you know?
Yes.
So,
Well, we really appreciate that, and your integrity, and, you know, standing behind your products and testing and doing all this legwork, even though we know it's probably exhausting for you. That's really important. Like, cause I know it's a product that I can recommend to clients, and I know is safe and effective. And I know it's you know, that you're willing to put this on. You said it was your brother, right? Who had was it your brother?
yes.
Who has this injury, right? So if you're willing to use it on your family members that you love and care about, right? And yourself and your, you know, your own family, then I know that that's a product that's worth it to have for my clients, myself, my own family. So we appreciate that greatly.
Yeah. And I mean, that's how I treat everything. Like every single thing that comes in, like, would I use this? And that was the shocking part of, you know, testing the torches. It was like, oh my gosh,
Right.
I wouldn't use that.
Right. So we didn't ship those out to people, and right. And now, you know, the ones that do go out to people are, you know, working really well. So that's
yes.
great.
Quality control.
Yeah.
Excellent
Yeah.
quality control.
So, you know, those issues have been corrected. Like I said, clearly it was a manufacturing issue. You know, but like, if that were any other company, they wouldn't have known that. They never would have known that. Because they look the same, you know, and you as the consumer, it looks great, right? It looks perfectly fine. It turns on, the lights are red. Okay, that all seems fine and dandy, but I mean, maybe it isn't. You have no idea.
Right.
And, you know, with what I've spent on meters, I've said this before, I probably could have gone to Hawaii.
Well, I know we're running long on time here, so there's so much more. Like, oh my God, we didn't even get to the whole question, Kelly, about biphasic response and how that's no longer, if I'm understanding correctly, a concern. And so we can just use, for example, your panels without worrying about overexposure. Is that correct?
To a certain extent.
Okay.
You know, yes, like I would say that's a yes and no answer.
Okay.
You know, there are different things that come into play. But I think that the information about us being near infrared deficient is really that's where I'm finding the conversation to be most interesting, is in that, you know, melatonin and the optics of human biology, and actually seeing that graph within that paper of, you know, the visible spectrum and the near infrared spectrum, and how much we used to be exposed to and how much we're exposed to now, you know, and just actually like seeing that is shocking to see like how little light we're actually getting, and then understanding how important light is.
Is that due to modern living, or is there some sort of change that's happened?
No, that's due to modern living.
Oh,
That's
okay.
due
You
to-
just talking about, I'm like, did something happen that I don't know? So that's just due to modern living. Okay. Yeah.
That's just due to modern living of living indoors, and, you know, Zimmerman and a lot of the podcasts that he's done in talking about, so he's an optical engineer, and he started, you know, so he was always involved in like designing, you know, lighting devices and things. But then when he actually looked at, you know, what light does to our biology, that really opened his eyes. And to understand that the light that hits the earth, so what we understand it to be is that, you know, nearly 50% of the visible spectrum is red. You know, red and near infrared. So, okay, so that's interesting. Well, that tells me that red is rather important if nearly 50% of it is red. Okay, that's important. But then to understand that of that visible spectrum, the trees, the ground, the shrubs absorb 80 to 90% of that visible spectrum, and then they reflect nearly 90% of the infrared.
Right.
So,
which just made me think of like, that's why when you're sitting outside in the shade, right, you're still getting all the benefits of the red due to the reflection off of all the greenery around you.
yes, yes. Yeah. And you know, so to understand that, then it sort of makes the case that, okay, we need at a minimum 3 times more near infrared, right? Because that is the way that nature has designed this system of light to work for us. And the light that's really rather important for us is the red and the near infrared. And, you know, there's this huge conversation and movement about vitamin D. Less than 2% of light is UVB, less than 2%. Yet that is the bigger conversation when it comes to light, is, oh, you need to get, you know, UVB exposure to produce this vitamin D. Well, I think the conversation about near infrared exposure to improve your melatonin production, that's the key to health right there.
Yeah, you're going to make subcellular melatonin all day long in your
all
mitochondria.
day.
All day. You're just cleaning all day long. You know, I mean, of course, vitamin D is great, and there's benefits of that, and there's benefits to every spectrum. The UVA has amazing benefits, and UVB has amazing benefits. But you make a good point. The red is predominant frequency, and it's there all day long. So that's a way to look at it.
Meaning we need to get adequate amounts. So what would be regarding your panels, the precaution? You said there's yes and no, or as far as overexposure, so help us understand just like what would somebody be wanting to keep in mind as far as safe use?
I mean, well, first of all, it would have to be a fully tested device in order to really know that it's safe to use. But I mean, I wouldn't tell someone to, you know, to stand directly against it. You know, there needs to be a certain distance that you have to be away from it. I think, you know, being mindful of your eyes is also important. You know, really strong light is never good for the eyes to be exposed to. But, you know, just like not using this over and over and over and over and over and over again, you know, because this is a strong dose of light. You know, much like anything else, there has to be some level of moderation You know, even
Always
sunlight
balance.
exposure, there can be too much sunlight exposure. It's like, just like, let's be smart, you know, depending on the condition. If you're a generally healthy person, you know, using a modality like this is sure, it's going to be beneficial. But you know, using it a couple times a week will be plenty. You know, if
Mhm.
you're a sick person, if you're an elderly person, if you're a very hard charging athlete type person, you know, then all of a sudden, like, this becomes a game changer. So, you know,
Okay.
Yeah, and everything is a balance, right? Yeah, we have to have
yeah.
balance. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to tell someone, okay, use the red light panel for 6 hours today.
Mhm.
No. How
Well,
about get outside for 6 hours
yeah,
today?
right. Go outside
That
and
would be
ground it.
way,
Yeah.
yeah, awesome. And yeah, as much as I love red light therapy, and I think it's a really great thing, I always say sunlight's number one, you know, and I'm sure you would
Always.
agree with me in that statement, even though you have a company that does red light therapy and red light devices. And again, it has a therapeutic benefit, but if it's a beautiful sunny summer day, I'm
Yeah.
gonna be outside. You know what I mean? Like, that's where you belong. So always, sunlight's
Yeah.
always number one. So
Yeah, if it's July and I have access to be outside all day, there's zero chance I'm using the
right,
red
me
light.
too. Same thing.
None.
I totally agree. Yeah.
Nothing
Yeah.
is as good as the sun. So
No,
There
no,
never will be.
can't replicate it. Yeah, exactly.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
well, this
Kelly,
has been phenomenal.
yeah.
Thank you so much, Kelly. I
Thank
mean,
you.
I feel like we could talk for just a couple more hours, and you are just, again, I mean, you are the celebrity for me as far as the red light queen, and bringing such a high quality, high integrity product that's safe. And you know, the trust aspect is really key. And especially when we're
Yeah.
going to start plugging stuff in and not use the sun. So there's so many people you're helping. So I'm so grateful to have you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. This is fun. It's really
Yeah.
fun.
We had an awesome time chatting with you. Please tell our listeners where they can find you and your products and all the things.
So they can find the website is Soleilwell, Soleilwell, Soleilwell.com. And they can find Soleilwell on Instagram, just at Soleilwell. And they can find me on Instagram at The Quantum Mom.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kelly. We really appreciate your time and sharing all
Thank
your
you.
wisdom today.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.